Hello everyone, I can see we already have some people watching us. I just want to say some things before we start. As usual, we have around 30 seconds of delay, which means that the time between I start answering questions and talking to you and the time you actually hear it is around 30 seconds. So please keep that in mind. And let me know if you are experiencing some problems. Of course, we will try to make this the better experience for everyone. Now, can you please tell me if you are listening to me, if the audio is good? I will be waiting for your answer to start. Okay, great. It looks like audio is working and video is working too. So let's begin. First of all, I would like to say it's Gabriel here, and today we are going to talk a little bit about barcodes. So I would like to welcome you to the Barcodes on ChronoScan webinar. That's version number 2 because the last week we had some problems and we couldn't go through with the webinar. When we get our barcodes inside ChronoScan, we can do two functions. We can do two things with them. We can either set the value for the barcode field, and we can trigger actions. We can split documents when we have documents with more than one page, or we can not split them. We can remove a page. We can set the value for another field on our document, on our job inside ChronoScan. And we can run a Visual Basic script, and that will open up endless possibilities for our jobs inside ChronoScan. But before we jump inside ChronoScan, let's talk about some concepts. We have the read area, which is the area on our documents where ChronoScan will actually be looking for barcodes. We have barcode types, which are the types of barcodes that ChronoScan will be actually looking for. And we have barcode alignment, which is the alignment that ChronoScan will be looking for. It could be left to right, right to left, top to bottom, and bottom to top. And last, we have validation, which are techniques. As you can see there, we have something wrong, which are techniques that we can use to make sure ChronoScan is capturing all the data we need. And we are going to learn how to do all of that inside ChronoScan. So let's jump inside ChronoScan. Here you can see I have 3 jobs set up, and each of those jobs are going to show us different things about ChronoScan and all of that I talked to you about. Here on the read area, I'm going to talk to you about, as you can see, those are simple documents. We have 6 barcodes, 6 different barcodes on each page, and we are going to learn how to import them into ChronoScan and separate each barcode into its own field, as you can see here on your right. We are going to learn how to set up our reading area, and you can see here it's only picking up that barcode up here because we have the read area set up like this. And we are also going to use it to split. This is one of the possibilities we have to trigger some actions with barcodes. And we are also separating all of those 6 barcodes by type, by alignment, and the read area, as I told you before. Here, I'm just going to click OK and no. And we are also going to see how we can go around situations like this when our barcodes are missing or we can't get a good reading because of the quality of our documents. Here we can just type in manually our missing data. And you can see that ChronoScan will tell us that it has a problem reading that document. And now it's green and we're good to go. On that second job, multiple barcodes split, you can see we have documents with more than 1 page, and we have 2 barcodes on the first page and 1 barcode on the last page. Here, we are going to learn how to use those barcodes to tell ChronoScan this is the first page of each document, and we are going to learn how to capture the barcodes, the horizontal barcode on that field and the vertical barcodes. On the last page, we used a barcode trigger, which is the other way to trigger actions. And we used also a Visual Basic script. As you can see, we have many possibilities. And on the single barcode read job, I'm going to show you how to capture the entire barcode and then separate it into 3 different fields. And you can do as many as you like. Here we have the first 4 characters, the next 4 characters, and then the rest of the barcode. So that's what I'm going to show you how to do today. The first step is to create a new job. Let's just use the new batch button up here. And let's run the job wizard. We are going to call it, let's start with the read area, and we are going to learn how to work with it. We name it and then we click next. We don't need IntelliTag, and there are 2 ways we can create barcode reading fields. We can either enable barcode reading right now here, or we can just leave it disabled and enable it later. For this document, since we have so many barcodes, I will just leave it disabled and go on. We have multi-image documents, and we are going to split them manually. We just click next, and we use manually because we have 1 PDF with 3 pages in it. We are not going to use any data fields for OCR, only barcode reading. So I'm just going to select the generic fields, and we can even eliminate most of them here. We are going to create our barcode reading fields afterwards. The output doesn't matter for this webinar. I will just leave it as it is and click on next. And here we can make sure we have everything good, and we do. So we click finish. And let's name our first batch. I'm just going to call it read area batch 1. And then we can click create batch or just click enter here. hit enter on our keyboard. Now we are ready to start importing our documents. I'm just going to drag from the Windows Explorer and drop the document here inside ChronoScan. I'm going to leave on auto detect. The resolution, it can be around 300 and 400. Those are the optimal values. We don't have text on our PDF, so I'll just leave it unselected and then click OK. Now ChronoScan will import our files. As you can see here, we have the 3 pages as one single document. And the first thing I'm going to do is to set up the first reading, and that's how you enable barcode reading without using the job wizard. We go up here to the barcode read menu and we click on activate barcode reading. You can see the barcode reading menu will show up, and you can see also that ChronoScan already picks up almost all of our barcodes, and it doesn't pick up that one because it is a PDF 417. If I select it up here and then click read barcodes again, you will see that it is now read, and we have the barcode value here, and you can check it against the printed value down here. You have also the barcode type here. What I'm going to do is to isolate that first barcode here. But before, I'm going to show you how read area works. As you can see down here on the read area section, we have left and top set to 0% and right and bottom set to 100%. That means we are reading the entire document. And if we want to clip, let's say we don't need the bottom of the page here. Let's say we want to clip half of the page. So we only want ChronoScan to read from the middle of the page up. We would just go to the bottom here, and you can see it starts at 100. So to clip, we would go from 100 to 0. The same is for the right. So let's go to 50. And I always like to start at 50. And then we click on read barcodes here again. And you can see now those 2 barcodes on the bottom, they are not read anymore. To keep clipping the bottom, we just keep reducing the bottom. Let's make it 13. And as you can see, it is not reading those 2, and we are almost set here. Let's say now we want to clip on the right, just like this. We want to not read that barcode here. We would just clip on the right here, and you can see it's 100, so we would go from 100 to 0. I always like to start again with 50, and then we click on read barcode again. And as you can see, that's enough to eliminate that reading here. Now, we must be very careful on our documents when we are setting the read area, because making the read area smaller will make our reading go faster. But if our barcode is always moving from one document to the other, we want to leave some safe margin here. We don't want to take very extreme measures regarding read area. We can also separate the barcodes using the type, using even the length, and using the alignment. So when we are dealing with our documents, we want to mix all of those 3 together to make an accurate reading and make it read faster. As you can see, we have code 128. So I'm going to leave only that one selected. And if you want to make sure ChronoScan is reading right, you just click on read barcodes, and you can see it is still reading the barcode we want. Now I'm going to make sure we have only left to right. And here, the fewer options you have, the faster the reading will go. Again, we click on read barcodes. and our barcode is still there. So that's very good. The last thing I'm going to do is that check every scan line, and that you should use it when you are not sure, when ChronoScan is not getting your barcodes right. So to test it out, I will just deselect it and click on read. And if ChronoScan wouldn't be able to read it, I would just select it and ChronoScan will most certainly read the barcode. But if we don't need it, I will just leave it deselected. And now on the actions here, let's say every time ChronoScan reads that barcode here on that section of the page, type 128 and left to right, I want ChronoScan to split our document. So I'm telling ChronoScan every time this barcode shows up, that's either the first page or the last page. As you can see here, we have the trigger options. Those are not the full options. And as I showed you, we will get more options on the triggers section. But here we already have some basic options. I want that every time ChronoScan reads that barcode, I want it to split that document there. So I'm going to leave the if barcode has been read, insert new document selected, and I want it to be the first page of our new document. Here we would have some other conditions for the barcode reading. We can make it equal to, begins with, and ends with every time the value changes, and every time the value changes or we don't see any barcode. You can just play with all of those conditions and you will get the desired result. I'm just going to leave it as when the barcode exists, and we don't need to use anything here. That would be the parameters when you would select something like this. So every time ChronoScan reads a barcode that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it would trigger the split. But I don't want to leave it equal to, I just want it to exist. I will just click here and click OK. I want to create a new field, but I could just click no and create a new field here. For this one, I will just click yes, and you will see we have barcode 1 now on the form view here created. And to reprocess, I want to reprocess. I will just click yes, and you can see we have that window here. I will just select the first one here. That's the configuration for the barcode read 1 field we got here. I want to use on that field that first read here, module 1, read 1. And module is the barcode reading. For now, we only have 1. And the read is how many of those barcodes ChronoScan reads. And here I can select which read. This is just a duplicate for the first one. I would just select the first one, use the whole code, and then I would click OK. And you can see on the form view, the value is already here. Now we have 5 more barcodes to read. To set up the other ones, I could create here a new data field, and I will call it just like the other one, barcode 2, and click OK. And I'm not going to set up all 6 of them. That's just to show you how easy it is to set up. I'm just going to do, let's say, 2 more, because I want to show you some other things here. And then I will show you how we can split, because when we want to split, we have to insert inside ChronoScan, to input inside ChronoScan only some 2 sample documents. So you can make sure the split is working as you want, and then you would just import the whole batch. Now on barcode 2, this field is not a barcode field yet. Let's first create a second barcode reading, and that's how you isolate the barcodes by reading. We click here on the barcode read button and click on add barcode read configuration. Here you will get the window again, and that will be module 2. Let's say we want to capture that PDF 417. That would be very simple. We could just select the PDF 417 here, and it would read only that barcode. But let's say we want first to shrink the read area. Let's click on the top, and you can see here the top goes from 0 to 100. It starts on 0, that means it is not clipping. Let's start on 50, and again we are going to click on read barcodes to make sure the new settings are working. And you can see this shows very well the read area. You can see only from that's the half of the document, and that's the bottom half of the document. So if we would make it 60, you will see that line going up. Oh, no, okay. That would be 40. You would see the line going up because that goes from 0 to 100. So we are clipping less with 40. Let's just make it 60 again. And you can see now it's not reading. Again, I advise you to be very careful when setting up the read area. You just want to crop some of the page to make it faster, but you don't want to crop too much when your documents are moving around, when your barcodes are moving around the pages, obviously. Now, we want to select the PDF 417 here to make sure it's reading, and we want to clip the right again. If we wanted to clip the left, we have to keep in mind that left and top is 0 to 100, and right and bottom is 100 to 0. So on the left, I would make it 50, for instance, and you can see it's not reading, but we want to read the PDF 417. So I will just set this one to 0 again, and on the right, I will make 50. When we click read barcodes again, you can see only the barcode I want is selected. Now, we want to isolate by type too. So we just deselect all of those types here. We want to make sure it's only left to right. And that those options work for 2D codes. If you had a QR code, things would be a little bit different. You would need to leave all of those options selected because it is a 3D code. Now, we are going to make sure we don't need check every scan line. And we don't, so we just leave it as it is. And we don't want to trigger any actions when ChronoScan reads that barcode. So I'm just going to deselect this button here. And you have to make sure every time you are creating a new barcode reading, you have to make sure you deselect this option if you don't want it to split. Now I just click OK. We can reprocess, but that wouldn't make a difference, so just click no. And here on barcode 2, now we are going to learn how to make the field a barcode field. We click on this little button here and click on field properties. And you can see here we have name, description, type, and many other options. What we are going to do is go on the field type here on the beginning, on the input data field, and change alphanumeric to barcode reading. And now you can see we have a new option here. We have the barcode field configuration option. We would just click here, and I'm very sure you still remember that window. That's the barcode field configuration window. And when we click here, we can see we don't have our module 2. I will just cancel it here, and I will reprocess. To reprocess, I'm just going to open a read settings here, and then click OK, and reprocess everything. And that should now tell ChronoScan, hey, we have a new module. I will go again on the options on that little button here and field properties, and you can see it already opens. Now every time I click a different field, I get the properties for that field. I want to change barcode 2, and I want to change the barcode field configuration. And now you can see we have again doubled, but it doesn't matter, just select the first one. I'm going to use the module 2, and there is only one reading. I will just select the first one here and use the whole code, and I will click OK. Now you can see we don't have the value here. What we got to do is again open the barcode read settings, and it can be any one of those. We open it, we click OK, and when it asks to reprocess, we just click yes. As you can see, the value for that barcode is here, page 1 split here. Now, to split our documents, and we are going to have a problem here because that barcode is not being read, we have to select everything. We go here on the actions and click on select all, or right click and select all. And then we can hit delete on our keyboard to remove and remove everything. The settings remain, but not the document. And then we will import the document again. We click yes, we leave the settings. It should save the previous settings. We just click OK. And as you can see, now our documents are being split, but we have that problem here. What I'm going to do is just click on this split button here, and that will create a new document. Now, we want to make sure that ChronoScan always reads the first barcode here, because that's our split barcode. And we want that when ChronoScan doesn't read it, it tells us that it's not reading that barcode. What we have to do is go on the barcode 1 field here, open again the field properties, and down here on the obligatory nature, instead of optional, we have to make it mandatory. And now when you go to the last one here, we should have an error. Let me make sure. Okay, it's mandatory. We have to reprocess everything. Let's just open here, click OK, and click yes. And you can see now that document is displaying an error. And to go around that error, we wouldn't be able to export the data we captured from those documents, the barcodes we just captured, because we have an error. So we just navigate to the document with the error, and we can do this using the search. If we have many documents, we just click here on the search menu and view documents with errors, and you can see only the documents with errors show up. I would just click here and make sure it is reading. It's not showing. Let me open it here. It is processing the document. It's showing on the wrong window, and I don't know why that's happening. Let me change again, view all documents. Okay, there we go. Now it is showing finally the fields here. And what we would do is just click here on the field with something wrong and then manually input. You can see we have the data. If we double click, we open it. We have the actual value printed down here. We would just manually type it in here. So ChronoScan rocks. And after we type it in, you can see the error is gone. And I have a, oh no, I don't, it's okay here. You can see the error is gone, and we are ready to export our documents. Now I encourage you to try out with your own documents, and you can see it is not that hard after you get the hang of it. Now let's move to the other setup. Let's start with those documents with one single barcode, and we are going to split them into several fields. Again, we click on the new batch button here, and we run the job wizard. Let's name it barcode separation. And I always like to call it job. It doesn't make much sense, but I like to do it that way. I will click on next. This time I'm going to enable barcode reading so you can see how it works. And I will click on next. We have single image documents. We only have documents with one page. I will click on next. On the fields, you can see now we have a barcode reading field here. I'm just going to move it to the generic fields. I will remove all of the other ones. And I will rename it barcode reading. I will rename it barcode part 1. That's going to be barcode reading. I will add 2 more and we'll name them barcode part 2 and here barcode part 3. And obviously every time you finish setting everything up, you just have to import your new documents every time you get new documents. We are going to change the field type from alphanumeric to barcode reading. And down here to barcode reading again. And we are almost ready to go. I will just click on next. This again doesn't matter. I will click on next. We have the 3 fields we needed. They are all barcode reading and we have single image here. So it is great. I will just click on finish and let's create our first batch. I like to match them. I will just call them barcode separation batch 1. There we go. And hit on create batch. Now we have to import our documents and I have them here. There we go. Those are all PDFs. Again, I will just drag and drop them inside ChronoScan and click yes. We don't need text from PDF, but if you need it, you would just leave it selected. We can leave it on color and again the resolution between 300 and 400. Of course, that if your documents are not that great to begin with, that won't make a difference, but here it probably will. Again, when we have multiple files and when we have when we don't need to split documents, we can just import all of our documents. So I'm just importing the whole batch and I'm going to click here on apply to next file. That button here, it doesn't matter for us now, but let's say you had multiple documents inside one single PDF file. You can either leave this selected and then you would sort out all of your documents, or you can just deselect this one and then all PDFs will be imported as a single document. But here, since we already said to ChronoScan we have single image documents, it will make one document for each of our files. We just click OK here, and we must not forget to apply to next file. Otherwise, we would have to set that up for each of our files, and then we click OK. And we just wait for a little bit. You can see that ChronoScan is importing each file as a new document. And now let's click on the first one. It could be the last one, but it doesn't really matter. I'll just click here. And you can see we have the 3 fields we created, but we have the entire barcodes on each of those fields. To make sure we have only part of the barcode on each of those fields, again, we go on this little button here and we click on field properties, and you can see even the properties already showed up here. And we have for each of those barcodes. On the first one, I'm going to click here and you can see it's barcode part 1. And on the barcode field configuration, I'm going to click here on the gear icon. And instead of using that option would be for a custom barcode you created and you have for your documents. You can have a splitter character, so your barcodes would split automatically. We are going to use part of the code here instead of the whole, or using a splitter character. Here we can either set the position manually on these 2 menus, or you can just highlight the part you want. I want the first 4 characters for the part 1, and you can see the position updates automatically. I will just click OK. Now on the second one, again on the barcode field configuration, click on the gear icon, use part of the code, and I will select the next 4 characters. You can see here 4 to 8. We just click OK. And now on the last one, I want the rest of the barcodes. I will just click again on the barcode fields configuration, the gear icon, use part of the code, and I will select the rest of the barcode. You can see here 8 till the last character. We click on here, and now you can see it's not correct here. What we have to do is open the barcode read configuration here. We just click OK, and you could obviously isolate. We have code 128, so we can disable all the other ones. We can leave it only left to right. I don't think we need to check every scan line. We don't. And we don't want to perform actions here. And we could even tweak the read area. Again, be very careful when we are doing that. I think I can do a 50 here, and it won't affect. And we could even crop a little bit on the left, but the bottom should be enough to be conservative. I will just click OK, and when it asks to reprocess and I click yes, you will see now the barcodes are all split. And to see the data from all of our documents, and that will include errors, we just click on the grid view down here. You can see we have all the fields we just created, and we have all the data we just captured from each of them. Now, we are going to move to the most complex setup of them all. And that's, I would say, is the most interesting. Let's click on the new batch button here. And we are going to create a new job running the job wizard. This one is going to be called multiple. Oh, that's not how we spell it. Multiple barcode reading. And I believe that's the most complex we have. We can have more complex setups, but that's a limited time, and we have limited attention spans. If you have any other questions, you are free to contact us at support@chronoscan.org, and we will be happy to work with you, obviously. I'm not going to enable barcode reading because we have more than one barcode, and I don't need IntelliTag for this one. I will just click next. We have multi-image documents, and we are going to split them manually using barcodes. We click on next. We have generic fields, and again, we won't need all of those fields. We can create our barcode fields later. We can't have no field here, at least one must exist, so just leave the scan date. I will change it to alphanumeric so we don't have any rules, validation rules, and I will call it horizontal barcode. And I have caps lock here, horizontal barcode. That will be the first one and the one we are going to use to split. I will click here on next. Here it doesn't matter again, I will click just on next. And we can see manual split, several images, only one field, and that's perfect. I will just click on finish and create the first batch. That will be called multiple barcode batch 1. There we go. We just click on create batch, and let's import our documents. As I said before, it is very important that when we are working with documents that we want to split manually, that means that we don't have batch codes to separate the pages, we want to import only 2 documents just to make sure our split is working. I will just click here and select 2 documents. And I have all of the scanned images, so each file is 1 page of our documents. I will just drag them and drop here and click yes. You can see we have 6 pages. And as I showed you before, we have 2 barcodes on the first page and 1 barcode on the last page. And for this one, even though we have 3 barcodes, I'm going to set up 2 readings because those vertical barcodes here, they are just different readings for the same module. First step, let's set up our split. Let's click on the first page because that's the barcode we're going to use. We just have to select a first page, it doesn't matter from which document. And we're going to open the barcode read menu and click on activate barcode reading. As you can see, ChronoScan reads the 2 barcodes, but we want only the horizontal one. What we could do is simply go to the alignment here and make sure it's only left to right. And when I click read barcodes, you can see it's not reading, obviously, the vertical barcodes. Again, we can narrow it down to only the type of barcode we need. And we can always make sure it is reading by clicking on read barcodes. Here we have to make sure we don't need check every scan line. That will make the scan again faster. If you need it, just select it. Please don't forget. We can crop a little bit of the bottom. Let's make it 50 and make sure it doesn't bother. There we go. And we could even crop the left and right and top, but don't do that. It's better if you just be conservative about the read area. We want to trigger a action, so we are going to go to the actions part of the menu here, and we're going to select to make sure that the if barcode has been read, insert new document, and the document begins. We could use the last barcode, the barcode on the last page, to tell ChronoScan it is the last page, but that would require a little bit more tinkering, and we wouldn't be able to do that using only that barcode reading menu here. We would have to set up another trigger. Since we thankfully have those kinds of documents, we're just going to use the first barcode here. I will just make sure it is selected. It begins on this page, and I want to make sure it is on exists. And if you have that option, if barcode has been read, delete page, you probably don't want that, so make sure it is deselected, and then we can click OK. We don't want to create a new field. We can reprocess, but that won't make a difference because we don't have any barcode reading fields, and ChronoScan sees everything as one document, so it will only scan that first page here. Let's go here on the barcode. Well, it probably doesn't. If we look here, we might have other readings on other pages. Yes, we do have. So it would get more readings. But let's just go here on the first page. And we have our first barcode. Let's set up our first barcode field here. Let's open the field properties again. And on the field type, instead of alphanumeric, we are going to set it to barcode reading. Be careful not to set it to document type, otherwise ChronoScan will crash because it can only have one document type field here. We open again the barcode field configuration on the gear icon here, and we are going to use that read one here and the whole code. We click OK, and that first barcode is set to go. Now what we are going to do is set up the second barcode here, the vertical one. It's very simple. We click on the barcode read here, and we add a barcode read configuration. After that's set, all we have to do here to isolate those barcodes is just leave top to bottom selected. And as you can see, only the vertical one is red. We can just select 2 of 5 here. That's the code 2 of 5, that's code 25. And if you want to make sure it is reading, you just click on read again. And you can see here we have the time, and the smaller it is, the better for you, of course. Let's make sure we need every scan line, and we don't. And here we could even crop the left of our document. So we go here on the read area. We know that left it starts on 0, so we go from 0 to 100. Let's just make it 50, should be enough, and then read barcodes. It's still reading, so we are good to go. I don't want to trigger any action here. If I were to forget about deselecting that option, when I would import my documents, every time ChronoScan reads the barcode on the last page, it would split again. We don't want that to happen, so just deselect that, and we are good to go. I will just click OK. We can reprocess to refresh our barcode readings, and it didn't ask for creating a barcode field because we already have one barcode field here. What we're going to do is click here on the Add New Data field, and we're going to name it Vertical Barcode and first page, just like the job I showed you on the beginning. First page, we click OK, and I'm going to create the one for the last page already. Let's create another one, and we can copy the name over and name it here. The only difference is we have, instead of first page, we have last page here. We click yes. It won't make a difference, then renaming the field. And let's change it. That one is field type. I want it to be the last page. I want it to be alphanumeric because we are going to use a Visual Basic script. But the first one here on the first page, the barcode field first page, we want it to be barcode reading. On the field type again, we will change it to barcode reading. And on the barcode fields configuration, we want to use the module 1. And you can see now we have several readings because of the number of pages we have. I will just select module 2, read 1, and I will click OK. I want to use the whole code. And there we go. Now, to reprocess, we would just open the barcode read settings and then click OK. And when it asks to reprocess, we click yes. So if we want to process the normal actions, the OCR actions, we can just click on process selection, and that window here will show up. But if we want to process barcode reading, we have to use that technique. We open the read settings, click OK, and when it asks to reprocess, we click yes. And you can see here the field is showing. And if we check the last page, the third page, you can see it's not reading. It reads only the first one on the first page because that's the module we selected. Now, since we have the split setup, we can already remove all of our documents. I will just right click and select all, and right click again and delete selection. Click yes. And now I'm going to import the entire batch. I will just drag and drop, click yes. And now you will see that ChronoScan, every time it reads that barcode, it will split. And that's the only way to split our documents using the barcodes. We have, I was actually wrong. You just want to import the first document, set up the split, then you want to import two just to make sure the split is working, and then you can import the rest, and everything will be good to go. Now we have one last thing to do, which is capturing on a different field that barcode on the last page here. What all we have to do, and I have a little cheat sheet here with the code we are going to use. What we have to do is just click on that document here, and if we go to the page fields, you can see we have some readings here. We have module 1 read 1 and then the value, and we have module 2 read 1, which is the vertical barcode. Now when we go to that one, you can see we don't have any barcode reading on the page fields, but on the last page, you can see we have module 2 read 1, which is perfect. All we have to do is set up a Visual Basic script to capture that part of the code and set it to that field here. So what we're going to do is go on barcode read and barcode trigger settings. As I showed you, that's the most complex way to set up barcode triggering. And here is where you can do all the actions you need. Here I'm going to add a condition. You can see here, that's the conditions window. And I just want the barcode to exist. I want it to be the module 2, because that's the vertical barcode. So every time ChronoScan reads the module 2, every time the second barcode, the vertical barcode exists, I want it to run. I will click OK, and you can see it is added to the conditions. We can have multiple ones for different modules, and that's very cool. And the action, I will just select the set the value for a field here. You can see we have don't split every any pages, end pages, VBS script. After adding, we have many options here. So we can cover really a endless amount of situations. I'm just going to select set the value for a field. Or no, I don't want to set the value for a field. I want to run a Visual Basic script after adding to the batch. If I used only the set the value for a field, I would be setting a default value for a set field. Let's just open here, and you can see I would have to select a field and then the value I want. I don't want that. I want to run a Visual Basic script after the document is added to the batch. I will just click on the add button here, and you can see we get the gear icon, so we can edit the Visual Basic script. And of course, we can have many other actions. I'm sorry, excuse me. There we go. And we can add many actions and many conditions here. What we're going to do is click here and click on the gear icon to open the Visual Script editor. I have the code already set up here. I will just copy and paste it here. And in that area, you have so many options. If you want to get creative with your Visual Basic scripts, you just need to take a look at our manual and you get some information. We have several sample scripts that will help you get going. And I would advise you to just take a look if you are interested in making custom actions. I'm just setting a variable here and then setting the value for a set field. I just have to make sure I have the correct names. Okay, those are the correct names. I will just save it, close it, and now all I have to do is just select all the documents, click on Process Selection, and make sure we have the triggers here selected. I will just click OK, and I believe that should be enough. We wait for a little bit. ChronoScan is processing. It's doing OCR and processing our pages. We just have to wait a little bit, and that's why I advise you to be mindful when you are setting your barcode reading settings, because the time it takes to process all of your documents will depend also on the barcode properties you just set up. Now we just sit and wait for a little bit. As you can see here, I made a mistake. The field is not being set because I'm very sure after adding to the batch, vbarcode last page. That is good, but I probably need to use the barcode processing. I will just click here on barcode read, open the barcode read settings, and then click OK. And when it asks to reprocess, I click yes. And that's still not working. And I'm very intrigued. That should be working by now. We might have a problem with our script. And to make sure to troubleshoot our script, we could just click run script, and that would return an error. But as you can see, we don't have an error here. What I probably have to do is to just remove everything again and drag and drop them again. And hopefully, because I set it to after adding to the batch, and there we go. You can see that since I set it to after adding to the batch, it will only work when I import the document again. If you want to change that, you just change the action here. Instead of after adding to the batch, you can use any of those other options here. So the way we have it set up, we have to import the documents again. And if we go check, let's see the value here, and you can see it is what we want. It is correct. Let's check on the next document, and we have to wait a little bit for ChronoScan to process the document. Again, we just sit and wait. And we have here the second document. Let's go to the last page, and you can see it is correctly captured. So that's it, guys. If you have any questions, I wasn't totally clear all the time. So if you have any questions, this is the time to ask. You can use the comment box, and I will be here available to answer the questions. Okay, I can see some people already left, but we still have some people watching. So if you don't have any questions, you can just leave the YouTube page, and then we will end the webinar. One last notice: if you find yourself with some questions, just ask us on support@chronoscan.org. So that's it, guys. I hope you liked it, and I will see you on the next webinar. Bye bye.